the New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.
And welcome to this episode of the New Zealand Tech Podcast. We've got a special one this time around. We're delving into a startup story, a mini focus on Concord Visa, fast-growing startup. We're also diving into 5 product reviews, new tech gadgets I've been looking at, the Vestaboard, Motorola Signature, Kindle, Scribe, Colorsoft, Samsung Galaxy Fold 8 and GoPro's Mission One. Of course, a big thank you to our incredible show partners, Spark, 2 Degrees, One New Zealand, Workday, PwC, SAP and Gorilla Technology. So first up, we're talking about the Vestaboard Note. Now, this one was new to me. It's a split flap display, so very different to the usual sort of screens that we see around the place. This type of display is what was the norm in airports and train stations of yesteryear. And it's got that real, retro styling to it, and the sound is a key part of the experience. And you will have noticed that before. We're just changing what's displayed at the moment, and you can hear the flaps rolling over. So each character has 64 spinning flaps behind it. And on the Vestaboard Note, which is the smallest of the Vestaboards, and you can actually join these together as many as you like. Well, there's probably some sort of limit, but you can join these together. And there's also the bigger standard size ones as well. In total with the Vestaboard Note, 45 characters, 65 characters in behind there with the flaps, so that's 2,880 flaps. And effectively this is Wi-Fi connected, controlled by app or website. You can really put up any sort of message you like within the characters that are available. There's a bunch of colours, so you can get a little bit arty, particularly if you've got one of the bigger Vestaboards. And if you pay for their subscription, which is around 200 New Zealand dollars a year, then you can link that up to have scheduled messages, even linking to different data sources. So maybe it puts up weather or sports results, other sorts of things that might be of interest to you. But really caught attention. The first day I turned that on in the office, we had somebody from the US in for a podcast. And we just put a welcome note up there for the guest, and the first comment was, "Oh, let's get a selfie, let's get a photo in front of the Vestaboard," and that was all over social media. Had a lot of views. So very cool. Just something a little bit different, and it really seems to catch people's attention. So really enjoying the Vestaboard. The Note comes in at around 2,400 New Zealand dollars is the current retail price through their local distribution channel. And you can use the app for free or sign up for that subscription, which they've got a 1 year, and the lower cost 3-year subscription for as well. My understanding is these are highly repairable, which is why this type of technology did last so long throughout airports and train stations all around the world. So likely to be a long-term sort of investment. So very, very cool. All right, what's up next? Now it's the Motorola Signature. Now, what really caught my attention around the Signature is, as well as it being, their top-of-the-line handset, it stands out because it actually can compete with Samsung, not just on some of the hardware and typical sort of software features, but on updates. And that's where Motorola have really been left in the dust previously. And they might release a great handset, but then you've got that limitation that it might only get a few years' worth of updates. Motorola telling us that we're looking at 7 years' worth of updates, or 7 Android updates coming to the Motorola Signature. So that really stands out for me. Great to see somebody competing with Samsung on that front. Nobody else is really doing that. Really, only the Google Pixel devices themselves, compete strongly when it comes to updates. What else stands out about the Motorola Signature? Well, for me, it's that it's a pretty slim, light device. Very very nice. Great cameras. You've got a telescopic zoom 3 times on the rear. In total, 4 50 megapixel cameras. So really nice from that perspective. Although it does fall short of Samsung when it comes to its night photography. So great shots during the day, great overall. But for night shots, Samsung have definitely got themselves in a strong position there, along with Apple, of course. So a little bit falling short there. Water and dust resistance, IP69. So that makes it a bit of a standout. That's a nudge above what we're seeing from Samsung. And also the charging. So this has 90-watt charging, so you can charge the phone from 0 to 50% in about 15 minutes with the appropriate charger. So that's pretty slick. And I guess the other thing is you've got a much closer to a stock Android experience with Motorola. So Google do a bit more customization. I probably like to keep it as close to the stock standard Android as possible. So those were the little bits and pieces from me. There are a few other differences there you can look at online, but I think a really credible option now in the market from Motorola. Finally, that really can compete well in the market. But of course, Samsung have got a lot more top-end phones that are getting those 7 years worth of updates. So, still Samsung in a very, very strong position when it comes to dominating the market for Android phones, but great to have this option from Motorola now. Now, I wanted to tap in on Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 8. No, we mentioned it in an episode recently. I've spent a bit more time with it now and actually find the form factor quite delightful. Really nice having a passport-sized handset. It's got screen on the front, so even when it's not open, it works really well with a virtually edge-to-edge screen. And then once you open it out, you've got a fantastic size display for whether it's consuming and watching content, whether it's splitting up your screen and using a couple of different apps at once. Great form factor. What stood out for me was very reminiscent of Microsoft's Surface Duo. So that was their Surface phone. They did the Surface Duo, the Surface Duo 2. Except, of course, that was 2 separate screens. It was not one, continuous folding screen. So, reminiscent of that. I think it's a great form factor. Works really well. As usual from Samsung, you've got great cameras, but the Z Fold 8 fell a little bit short for me because it didn't have the full gamut of cameras that we see on S26 Ultra or the Z Fold 8 Pro. Interestingly, the last year's form factor has become the Pro model this year, and the new form factor, I guess, is the standard price option. I wonder whether they should have done the opposite and made this form factor the Pro with a bigger and put the third camera on the rear. So you do miss out on having the full camera capability. And someone I was chatting with today said, hey, they like this, but they're not going to get it because it doesn't have the top end cameras from Samsung. So yeah, that's maybe a trick that Samsung's missed, or that may just be how they've decided to play it in terms of their capabilities. You can't put everything in every single phone model, of course. You have to differentiate there. Other things that stand out for me, of course, you've got there 7 years of updates, absolutely fantastic. Really, Samsung is the ecosystem to look at for folding phones. You've now got 3 unique options from Samsung, and they're all very good in their own right. But if you want that top camera capability, go for the Z Fold 8 Pro. Okay, let's talk about the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft. Now, we're so many generations into the Kindle, and of course the Kindle Scribe has been around for a good number of years too, and the Kindle Scribe is all about being able to write, draw, etc. with a stylus on the Kindle, and the Scribe tends to have a much larger screen than the other Kindles. So we're talking about 11 inches here, but it's a super slim device, 5.4 millimeters thick, around 400 grams. So really easy to carry around with you. And for me, it sort of sits in that gap between a paper notebook and other types of technology. But the beauty of the Kindle and other e-ink types of tablets is it's not one of these big distraction devices where you're getting alerts and pop-ups and things that are interrupting what you do. So you can sit down with your Kindle Scribe, use it as an ebook reader, but also be annotating PDFs, writing and taking notes and so on. And one of the things with all of the products in this space, including the Kindle Scribe, is that the capabilities have got better over time, albeit slowly. So now we've got some integration with Microsoft OneNote. So there's a way to do a kind of a one-way sync when you're creating content on the Kindle Scribe. You can get that into OneNote. You can't get it back again if you make changes direct. You've got integration with Google Drive and OneDrive in there as well, being able to bring PDFs across and so on. For me, this is a nice product. I do like that addition of color, especially for things like highlighting content. If you're working with color PDFs, it's nice to be able to see that come through. It is a sort of a muted color. So, and I guess that's that Colorsoft terminology, is so you don't get your expectations up thinking you're going to get a really bright iPad or phone like screen. It's not at that sort of level. E-ink displays are very much the brightness is the lights that you've got in the room, or if you're outdoors, they're not transmitting brightness at you. Couple of other things wanted to mention, like if you're really tied to the Kindle ecosystem for e-books and audio books, which you can listen to through this with your Bluetooth headphones and so on, then fantastic. Some people are, some people aren't, so there's a bit of an ecosystem call there. One thing I have got so used to on a phone these days is not having to put a PIN number in to access it, but keeping it secure because of that local biometric capability, thumbprint, Face ID, what have you, to get into the device. I would love it if one of these e-ink devices, such as the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft, would have that capability, but nobody does just yet. The other thing that I find is having the magnetic attachment of the stylus is good. However, depending on where the Kindle Scribe is sitting in a big bag or what have you, sometimes their stylus will get knocked off the side of the device. So I do wonder whether there could be a variation, and it would make the device thicker to do this, but a variation where actually there was a physical holder for the stylus. overall, though, I'm pleased with where the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft is landing. That ability to annotate content easily without distractions, and being able to take this away when you're wanting some time to think and ponder on things, to plan. Coming to the pricing for the Kindle Scribe Colorsoft, around $1,300. There is a 32 gig and a 64 gig model, so pick your options there. There are also the black and white ones that are a little bit cheaper, including one without a backlight that may be of interest. That's around $900. So there's not a low cost device, but they do tend to last for a good few years. And I have had Kindles and Kindle Scribes fail in the past. So be wary of that. They're not particularly serviceable. On the flip side, though, Amazon are usually reasonably generous with their discounts if you're buying a new model and you've got a previous one that has failed. That's probably the key things that you need to know. It's an interesting segment now. We've got a lot more competition than we did. I've also been using the devices from Remarkable over the last 12 months, and they compete very strongly with what Kindle are offering. All of the products tending to get better with improved software over time, and the hardware itself, continuing to step forwards. Okay, it's time to talk about the new GoPro Mission One Pro. So 3 models of the GoPro Mission One. There's the Mission One Pro, which is the first one out. Retailing, it's landed about $1,200 here in New Zealand, about 10% probably under their full retail price. But what this camera does that we haven't seen from GoPro before is a full 8K, and it's 60 frames per second, so super high resolution, which allows for all sorts of options, from cropping or taking your footage and making it vertical for social media or horizontal. Mega resolution, and the frame rates are impressive. So 60 frames per second there for 8K, 240 frames per second for 4K video, and shooting in 1080p or full HD, the camera can do up to 960 frames per second. Pretty impressive overall. They've got a new 50 megapixel 1-inch sensor, and the third generation of GoPro's own internal processor, which is part of what allows all this to happen. Gives you your super steady image stabilization and a bunch of other things in terms of battery efficiency, and speed improvements. They've also got faster charging. It's impressive how much, with the change of processor and the other changes that they've made, you've got much better thermal performance and efficiency there. So a lot less chance that your GoPro is going to overheat, which is something that would happen because these are such small compact cameras, with the sensor, the processor, the battery, everything sort of packed into a small space. They're actually handling that side of things a whole lot better. Really interesting release from GoPro. This marks a move on from their previous series of cameras, where they were up to GoPro 13. Very curious how this plays out for GoPro. They are trying to do a degree, expand out from just being all about the action camera. Although, of course, the GoPro name is absolutely synonymous with being an action camera, and it is the most well-known brand, from that action camera perspective. Now, the other GoPro didn't mention. In the 3 we've got the GoPro. The Mission One Pro, that's the 8K, the Mission One, the 4K, and there's another 8K variant, which is the Mission One Pro ILS, and this actually uses micro four thirds interchangeable lenses, although without an autofocus sort of capability. So interesting to see. Haven't tried that one yet, but it certainly opens up the way this type of camera can be used. A couple of other things stand out with GoPro for me. Their software seems to be very good. regular firmware updates, new capabilities, new features. Usually very capable, very reliable, and the extended battery life that they now have, and that you can look these up online in terms of how long the camera will run. Depends on the environment you're in. How if you're in the sort of snow and ice, that can impact and shorten the battery life up. But in some cases, we're sort of seeing around twice the battery life of the GoPro 13, the Hero 13 Black. So some really good steps forward. Some folks will be kind of curious around, we've noticed GoPro's share price lagging and some concerns around is GoPro still going to be in business, because they have been struggling on that front. I think GoPro have got such a big and well-known brand, and they've got a lot of recurring revenue with their subscription model that lets you upload unlimited amount of video and images from your GoPro into their cloud. I saw some figures. I think in the direction of $100 million a year of revenue on that front. So look, I think if they don't manage to sort of survive as a standalone company, then they're the sort of brand that's going to get snapped up pretty quickly by somebody else. And you would imagine that their apps and their subscription service is going to keep coming. That subscription also is really nice if you do end up breaking or damaging a camera, which can happen. I did that with a past GoPro. Took it in some water, and it turned out that the door on it wasn't quite it was actually the door had been removed. Wasn't on the camera, so water came in. So there's some niceties there in terms of those offerings. So good to see GoPro continuing to innovate. There's obviously some strong competition there in the market as well. So interesting segment, but they're certainly doing what they can to innovate. Reasonably pricey, so that's the other sort of consideration with these newest cameras, these 8K cameras, is you are coming in at a higher price point. So just something to think about. But overall, very very nice piece of kit from GoPro, and we'll wait and see what happens with their other models with their 360 camera. But I imagine we'll see some new other options coming into the market too. Okay, now it's time to jump in and hear a little bit about Concord Visa from co-founder and chief executive Kevin Park. He's been on the New Zealand Tech podcast before. And of course, Concord Visa, for those that don't know, is a spin out from Crimson Education and still under 100% ownership of Crimson. So let's jump in with Kevin. Kevin Park, Concord Visa, welcome to the podcast. Maybe you can give us the sort of 2-sentence overview of what Concord Visa is.
Absolutely. So we provide global mobility at the pace of high growth startups, so they can grow as fast as they need to and acquire the talent they need all around the world.
So what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so when I was growing Crimson Education into 20 different countries, or Hector into 22 different countries, I always felt that we had the best plans, had the best ideas, had the best strategies, but at the end of the day, we needed the right people on the ground to execute those strategies. But it took so long to have the right people on the ground pulling that off, and 3 months of delay is a lot of discount on the valuation. And it really sucked to show up to the board and say, hey, we've got a visa issue, and so we can't have that right person launching that market for us. So ultimately, we spun out of Crimson and created a company that helps other high growth companies that are able to acquire this talent really fast, have the right people in the right place at the right time, and grow their businesses all around the world.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about how you're funded and how that looks like now in terms of funding and ownership.
Fantastic. So we've spun out of Crimson. Crimson owns us, and we are able to use that funding from Crimson to scale internationally. Luckily, Crimson has all the distribution around the world. They have all the infrastructure that helps us focus on things that matter for us, which is the product and also acquiring the customers the B2B customers that we have around the world. So we've got some amazing customers now that we're helping in this side of the world, companies like Halter, Tracksuit, Ideally, all the high growth startups, they use us. And so we focus on delivering a really good platform for them to be able to grow really fast and become like a really big success story in New Zealand.
Great. And how's your success been to date in terms of growth?
Yeah, really good. We've learned, from our experience of launching multiple companies into different markets, the things that really work and how we need to do things differently this time around. So that we've taken on those lessons. Now we're serving customers in 16 different countries already. We've got offices in 5 different countries. So that phrase of like being global from day one, we've really understood what that means. And that means going out to bigger markets earlier and not being afraid, having the courage to just say, yeah, we're going to have to do this at some point. Why not now? Let's just go for it. Yeah.
What would you say the biggest lesson or two would be, other than getting out and getting global very quickly?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the people that you recruit in the team. They are the thing that makes businesses work. At the end of the day, a startup is just like a Herculean effort of individual brilliance at the early stages. And so having the right people join the team who know what hard work looks like, knows what the future could be and believes in it, it carries you so far to the point where all those things that we don't have compared to a larger competitor becomes, reduced. It earns the right to fight another day, to have the opportunity to become that global player. So boiling it back down, I think it's about, hiring the right people, identifying them, selling the right vision, and making sure that they know how they fit into this picture, and then letting them do what they need to do to get that done.
Great. And when did you launch? And what's the next sort of big date in terms of, if you're kind of looking forward at when you're going to have world domination?
Yeah, good question. So we spun out officially probably around 13 months ago in the Concord brand. And now we're already at 13, 14 staff. And I lose count because we're adding people every other week. And we have many open roles. We're already operating in a lot of countries. We already service, visas and talent mobility in a number of countries. So looking forward in the next 12 months, we hope to have covered all the majority countries. We already service, to the US, to New Zealand, to Australia as the main markets. Next steps imminently is the UK, Canada, and then we'll probably add other markets such as Singapore, Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, and other European markets as well, so that we can truly become that one partner that powers your visa mobility for any high growth business around the world.
That's exciting. How big do you think the market is, and what are your where would you say you sit at the moment, and what are your aspirations?
We're like scratching the absolute surface. So there are incumbents that are doing this the old-fashioned ways from the 1990s, using Excel spreadsheets and old software that probably doesn't run on a Mac right now, and they're doing billions in revenue every year. I had to deal with them a lot around the world while growing multiple companies. So, really, it's really up to us to capture that market. And that's just the immigration and the visa world. And every startup knows as they enter into a new market, there's other questions like tax and compliance and operating a business that could be the next verticals for us to enter. So it's a really huge market. We want to win this market really well and distribute our product all around the world first. But it could be really big.
Well, congratulations on your success to date, and all the best for the future. Thank you, Kevin Park.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, folks, thanks so much for listening in to the New Zealand Tech Podcast. Of course, a huge thank you to our incredible show partners for making the show available to you. So thank you, Gorilla Technology, SAP, PwC, Workday, 2 Degrees, One New Zealand, and Spark. We'll be back again, of course, next week. And make sure you are following us on YouTube, your favourite platform from a video perspective, as well as on the audio podcasting apps. And you can follow myself and NZ Tech Podcast on LinkedIn as well to keep up to date with what's going on in tech across New Zealand. All right, Haere, we'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.
The New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.